In this digital age, we do almost everything with computers. Look around the room you're in. Is there a single object that wasn't logged in some computer system at one time? If it wasn't designed or produced with a computer, then it was at least logged as inventory in some database. The sale of the item is similarly documented with the relevant tax authorities, unless someone's been getting creative with their accounting, but a computer will probably identify that sooner or later too. Now, there is a problem with this. Not because computers sometimes don't do what they're told, but because computers always do exactly what they're told. Unless you're running Windows, then the computer just does whatever the hell it wants. My point is, humans write the code that the computer runs, and sometimes humans make mistakes. Quite a lot of the time, actually. But a computer doesn't know what a mistake is. It doesn't review the code and say, this is gonna end badly. It says, you want to run this test code in production instead of the simulated test environment? Sounds good to me, you fucking idiot. IT security researcher Joseph Tartaro was well aware of this fact when he was applying for a vanity license plate for his Infiniti in 2016 in California. Pondering ideas for what his license plate would say, he knew he wanted something related to his profession when he came upon the idea of null. In computing, null is a keyword that indicates something has no value. So if you put your personal details into a database but neglected to give it your age, then when you queried the database for your age, it would say null because you didn't put it in. There's no value there. Tartaro thought null would make for a cool vanity plate, but he also wondered how California's DMV would handle this request in their system. To his surprise, the website actually accepted null and registered his new license plate. The code here probably should not have allowed null as a valid input, but there is a difference between a value of null and a text value that says null. So if the rest of the code is thoughtfully written, then this might not be an issue. Tartaro was sort of hoping that it would be an issue though, that somewhere in the code someone had neglected to consider the possibility of null being a valid value for a license plate, and that perhaps if he ever got a ticket for a traffic violation, the system wouldn't be able to process it. Maybe cops wouldn't even be able to search his plate in the system. It turned out he was somewhat correct. He went a year driving without issue, but when he had to renew his registration, the DMV website suddenly would not accept null as his license plate. Thankfully, he was able to renew his registration with a reference number instead. Tartaro continued on without further issue until 2018. He had gotten a ticket for not having an appropriate registration sticker on his license plate. He suspected someone had peeled it off to use on their own car. He thought about fighting the ticket, but the fine was only $35, so he decided to just pay it and move on. He was a bit disappointed because this confirmed that his license plate did not present a problem for processing tickets. There was another problem though, a big one. The DMV uses a third-party private company to handle tickets, the Citation Processing Center. After paying his ticket, Joseph Tartaro was now in their database, and their database did not like his license plate at all. See, their database had quite a lot of null values for license plates, where cops had failed to note a license plate with their citation, or maybe the car they were writing a ticket for just didn't have a license plate. Regardless, someone had clearly written some disastrous piece of code that interpreted null in text as equivalent to null in value, because now all these null plates were associated with Joseph Tartaro. His mailbox started getting flooded with tickets, and before long, he was on the hook for over $12,000 worth of traffic violations. His little prank/experiment had backfired spectacularly. It didn't seem to matter to this processing company that Tartaro drove an Infiniti, yet the tickets were for Hondas, Toyotas, Fords. They were in cities that Tartaro had never visited, and at times that made them physically impossible for one man to incur. He was even getting tickets for incidents that occurred years before he even had the plates. The software engineers behind this wrote the code with all the tact of a monkey with a machine gun. He called the company and explained that their code was obviously confusing null values in their database with his license plate that simply read null, using a ticket he had received for a Honda as an example. This went over their heads, and they demanded he either prove it wasn't him who had racked up these hundreds of tickets, or pay the fines. When he made it clear he wasn't going to do either of these, they asked that he mail them back the tickets. He decided he wasn't going to do that either, as he wanted to keep the paper records. It was a good thing he did too, because when he checked the website for the Honda ticket he had told them about, he noticed that they had changed the citation from a Honda to an Infinity. So the people at the processing company apparently just have free rein to change the details on the tickets whenever they please. This entire system is a shit show. Tartaro contacted the DMV and they were able to quash a lot of the tickets, but this didn't stop the flood of new tickets coming in. The issue apparently persists to this day, with Tartaro refusing to back down. They're not his tickets to pay, so why should he? The organizations involved should just fix their fucking code, but that's obviously not going to happen. Actually, it's only getting worse. As of last month, Tartaro has started getting insurance claims for cars he doesn't own or have under policy. Tartaro has been advised that the best course of action would be to just change his license plates. He refuses to do this, insisting he's done nothing wrong, which is legally true, but come on now, you knew what you were doing. It's the people with the surname Null that I really feel sorry for. Yes, that is a real surname, and it does cause constant headaches for the people that have it. Anytime they register for anything, they roll the dice hoping that the people who wrote the code knew what they were doing, and a lot of the time it turns out they didn't. That's a name that could potentially be made extinct by computers when you think about it. If your last name is Null and you're getting married, is the person you're marrying gonna want to take on your last name knowing the hardship it's gonna cause them? Are they going to want to name your kids Null and subject them to a lifetime of errors? In this digital age, Null is a surname that, in terms of desirability, is probably right down there with Hitler. Anyways, if you liked this video, I have many similar videos for you to enjoy also. You can subscribe to see more in the future, and join the channel membership to support me monetarily and get a few perks out of it too. Until next time, stay safe.
Yeah, and they're all addressed to me, but well, like I didn't know I had a Honda, a Toyota, a Porsche, a Mercedes, you know, I'm living big, right? So my prediction was really wrong because when we went in there, it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get a ticket. I'm the shit, like I'm invisible, but instead I got all the tickets. So.